All right. So what is big data? Some of you must have already heard about this. And before I talk a little bit more on this slide, what I would also do is I would like to bring your attention to the URL at the bottom of this slide. So if you have a browser around, you can put in this URL. I'll come to that in a bit. So what is big data? When we talk about big data, the 3 V's come into play. This is somewhat cliched, but still I think this is one of the best ways to explain big data. The first thing is about the volume, the amount of data that is getting generated on a daily basis. We are all aware of this. There is no need of much of explanation. But what is different is that traditionally when we talked about data, what comes to our mind is a table, which is a bunch of rows and columns. And that's how typically enterprise data was stored and is still stored. But now when we talk of data, it is not just the enterprise data, but it is all kinds of data that everyone is generating, people like you and me. We have social media accounts, Facebook accounts, Twitter accounts. So we generate a lot of information. All this now comes under data and big data. And this is the variety part of it, the second V. So the variety refers to what is known as the unstructured data, which is all the text that we generate, all the audio files, all the video files, all that comes under variety. And according to one study, 80% of the new data that is generated is unstructured data in the form of text, audio, and video files. So that is the second V. And the third V is velocity. Velocity has 2 components. One is, of course, the rate of change of information or data, and also the concept that using the data at the right time. So if the data is generated and we don't take action at the right time, that becomes obsolete. Let's take a very simple example of a credit card fraud. When a person swipes a card, and if it is a fraudulent transaction, as soon as the card is swiped, actually data is generated, but unless we are able to detect it immediately, it's probably too late. So that is the velocity aspect of it in a very simplified way. Now, this URL, if you see, that basically you must be seeing there, animated version of how data is generated, how fast, the rate at which data is generated, amount of data that is generated, and so on. So that's an interesting way in which MapR has kind of tried to depict the rate of change of data and amount of data that is being generated. I hope you were able to see it. I didn't want to switch in it so that we don't get disrupted, the session doesn't get disrupted. So the rate or the volume of the data that, the rate at which the data is increasing is phenomenal. So this slide basically shows that. You can, you will see that the units that we are using is no longer even terabytes. We are talking about exabytes. So by this slide shows how the data will grow for the next 5-6 years. So 2020 is what we are showing here. So you can see that the rate of growth is actually exponential. So that is the whole